Let's get some intro music going. Yo, what is good, you guys? Welcome to the first ever video for cryptographics. Today, I'm going to be talking about retirement savings funds versus crypto. Yeah, we're going to compare those two, and we're going to see what one actually makes the most sense long term. Before we begin, this is not financial advice. Do your own research. Contact a professional. I'm not a professional. I'm some guy on the internet. Don't trust me. So today, we're going to be talking about, like I said, retirement funds. Let's get right into it. So let's get my screen up here. Boom. All right. So why are we talking about this? First off, the reason we're talking about this is because over my life, and I'm sure yours as well, I've noticed a trend of these narratives of like, yeah, just save up for retirement, make like, I don't know how much money, like get 7 or 8% a year, 5 or 6, 7, 8% a year, and retire, work your ass off for 30, 40 years, and basically just be in the system, and then have this little payout at the end and like enjoy your last like 20, 30 years and call it a day. But that doesn't work for me. It doesn't seem, I don't want to be in the system. I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to do my own thing. And the returns just don't seem worth it. The more I learned about where these investments are going within the RRSPs or the IRAs, the 401k, should probably edit that. But you know what I mean, 401k. So we're going to look at which one is the better investment long-term, even though crypto is super new and there's a lot of, I think a lot of people will be kind of leery about this comparison, but I'm going to try my best and we're going to see where it goes. So which one is better for retirement? Again, this is not financial advice. This is just food for thought. So everyone knows about the RRSP and the 401k, but just to keep it simple, just retirement savings funds that have a maximum contribution amount per year and compound yearly, around like 5-6% roughly. In the USA, the max contribution amount was bumped to $20,500. I think it was in 2021 I was reading. In Canada, the max contribution is based on your income tax bracket, as seen below. If you earn $30K per year, you can contribute to $5,400 annually. If you earn $50,000 up to $9,000, up to if you earn $80,000 per year, you contribute $14,000. If you earn $151,000 or more, you can contribute up to the CRA's annual maximum of $27,230, which if you were to convert that to USD, it's like super similar. They're basically the same amount of money. I think it's 26.7 or something like that. $1,000 Canadian dollars is 20,500 US dollars. 26,267 Canadian dollars is to 20,500. So they're pretty much the same, like $1,000 off. And for the 401k only allows withdrawals after 59.5 years of age, which I don't know about you, but I would prefer to have control of my money at all times. I mean, as much as possible, or at least like know exactly when I can take it out within a set period of time. That's not like 29, 30 years down the road. It's a long time. I mean, if it was worth it, it would make sense. If it was like, 30% return a year or like 25% return, I mean, like, sure, that'd be quite worth it because it would compound so fast. But 59 and a half years to wait for compounding 5% doesn't seem like my cup of tea. So RRSP allows any time as long, RRSP withdrawals allows any time as long as you are not locked in a plan and taxes. I don't know what I'm saying here. So with an RRSP, it allows you to withdraw anytime as long as you're not locked in. And the taxes are 10%, 5% in Quebec, but 10% on amounts up to $5,000. Jesus. 20% on amounts over $5,000 up to $15,000, and 30% on amounts over $15,000. So if you remove $15,000, and this is in Canada, but if you remove $15,000, you're almost giving up $5,000 just to take that out. So essentially you have to take out $15,000 to get $10,000, a little over, but still. And in the States, by age 70 and a half and 71, you have to start withdrawing from the fund, and penalties can even have been involved for not withdrawing required amounts per year. That's craziness. That's crazy to me. So crypto version of an RRSP or a 401k is Hex. Hex is a cryptocurrency or token on the Ethereum blockchain. It's essentially a self-sufficient banking system that allows you to pay your future self by staking, which essentially the easiest way to think about Hex is there is the code that runs Hex. And if you decide you want to place your Hex or pay your future self by making a promise to the Hex contract that you won't sell for between 1 and 5,555 days, the contract holds it for you. And if you fulfill that promise, you get a yield percentage, or which is like basically you are getting inflation or an interest rate, if you will, if you want to think about it like that, just so you can kind of understand it, that on average, because the average stake for Hex right now is about 6.1 years, is 38% per year. And it goes higher with the longer stake and obviously lower. Currently, it's sitting around 10% for like a year stake. I think somewhere around 10 or 11%. And it pays an additional Hex, not in dollar value, through the inflation caused by the staking mechanism. The price itself does not. So the actual gains that you get per year, or not gains, but the interest or yield, because that is the term, is yield. But we can think of it as interest if it just makes us understand it better. But it's yield. This doesn't include the price appreciation of the cryptocurrency itself. So if Hex goes up 70%, I'm not going to do the math, but you can just kind of picture how this goes, and you get average 38% a year, and it goes up 70%. Like, I mean, it's a pretty good gain, seriously. So Hex has a supply inflation rate of up to 3.69% per year. But here's the thing, and that's set in the code as well. So in the code, it's made so that Hex's inflation goes up at a static percentage. Like basically, it's linear as far as what can be, what can come out of inflation and is paid only to stakers. But because Hex users often utilize the long-term staking mechanism, two things happen. And I didn't write this down, but one is that the inflation actually doesn't get implemented into the supply year after year, because a lot of times with these 6.1 year stakes, or longer, or basically longer than a year, the supply, as it's basically taken out of circulation when it's staked, because the contract, what it essentially does is the contract grabs your Hex, it burns it, and takes it out of supply. So the inflation that you're getting during that time actually doesn't go into supply. So I think from what I've seen, even year after year, it hasn't actually been 3.69%. It's been a lot less, just due to the mechanism and because of the way the staking, how long these stakes have been, and how that when that gets implemented into the supply again, because it's such a later date. And also, most Hex users restake once the stake matures, or just hold long term. So the available supply percentage. So think about it like this. You have the supply, the overall supply is broken up into two parts. You have the people that are holding it or staking, and you have the Hex that is available for purchase, right? So that is the two parts of the entire supply. As which side is growing is the only side that's growing is the side that the Hex holders are on. Anyone that is holding Hex is the person that's getting the supply. So you can think about it like this side's constantly growing, and the whole sphere itself of all the possible supply is also growing. This side, in essence, is taking up less and less of a percentage of the overall supply as this side inflates, essentially. So this side over here is not deflationary, but the available supply is getting less and less and less in percentage year after year. So it's very interesting for what that could mean for price, or just rarity of the Hex or how hard it might be to get Hex in the future. If you must remove your funds, there can be penalties for lying to the contract about how many days you will stake for, between 1 and 5,555 days or 15.2 years. Call this the truth engine. And if you lie or you say, I'm going to stake for 3,650 days, which I think is 10 years, then you have to follow through with that at least up to the halfway point. If you don't follow through with that up to the halfway point, then your principal that you decide to stake, a little to a lot, depending on how soon. Like if it's like you stake for 10 years and after day one, you decide to end your stake, your principal, I'm pretty sure, is gone. But if you're close to that halfway point, only a small amount of that principal that you put in originally is gone. And after that, you get paid some of the interest based on how far past the halfway point you are that you've earned. Everything else basically is like penalties and gets removed. Anyone else that's staked gets that Hex. So it's really cool. If things happen and you're staked, basically your rewards can go up because other people decide to make a decision about ending their stake early. So penalties for before the halfway point of the restake can eat your principal investment. Talked about that. Like I said, still earn some interest after it is the half, or some interest if it is after the halfway mark. Once staking is done, there's no middlemen to deal with. The code's finished and it's immutable, meaning it's like locked in. It can never be changed, can never be turned off. It is permanent. There's no permission to remove or sell some or all of your funds. Kind of like the RRSP, where if anything happens to the bank or the government decides to do something, I mean, your 401k or your RRSP could be in jeopardy in general. So let's go to the next slide here. You become your own bank with Hex. Like you're the person who goes and drops off the money. You decide how long you want to stake it for. You basically decide your rewards in Hex, and you decide when you want to get paid, how often you want to get paid. You can do one stake. You can do 15 stakes over the course of 15 years, called a staking ladder. There are many strategies that you can use to whatever life circumstances you have in order to make the most of it for yourself, or to make things make the most sense for you, maybe short term and also long term. Maybe you could do a couple of shorter stakes and maybe do a couple longer stakes, or one big long stake, to really make it so that way you're good for the first 2 years, and then, or you're good for a handful of years to make yourself money. They'll sustain you for a while. And then by the time you get to your 15-year mark, you've sent yourself so much money to the future that now you're good. You got a lot of wealth, as you'll see shortly how quickly things add up. Shorter stakes pay lowest yield and longer pays the highest yield. Again, yield, we're talking about that inflation rate and what is coming out of the inflation, but it is yield that we're calling it. So up currently right now, it's over 40%, around the 40% mark for the longest stakes. And like I said, down to about 10% per year for about a year. It is completely decentralized, so no central authority can freeze your account, stop a stake, or stop you from cashing out. Like it's blockchain technology is beautiful. There's nobody stopping you from doing anything. If you have millions of dollars in Hex, let's just, for the sake of the argument, you can pull it out. No, you can put stuff in. You can move it to different wallets. You can send it here, there. I mean, there's so many things you can do, and no one's controlling what it is that you're doing. You can do it anytime. So now this is an interesting one. So who are you placing your money with the RRSP and 401k? Now this one, I really want you to do your own research if you're watching this video, because it's interesting and it's kind of a rabbit hole. And for me, at least, the more I found information like this and dug into it a little more, which I'm only going to scratch the surface of it just because it's just such a huge topic. But the people you're placing your money with, many of the current major players in the stock market, so like I'm talking all the big corporations, major companies, those guys, they are linked to basically 3 of the biggest financial asset management companies in the world, called State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock. And they each have about upwards of 10, I think BlackRock has 16 or 17 trillion, actually. I was seeing this a while ago, but I know most of them have, or all 3 of them together have roughly around on average, 10 trillion plus in assets. They are among the top shareholders of almost any major company you will find on Yahoo Finance. And really go look this up. As you can look up any company and you'll see this. By investing in these companies, which if they're in most of these major companies within the qualified investments of your 401k or RRSP, you're directly contributing to the wealth of these corporations and the power they have over society. Because if you dig into it, like I got here, these corporations have major shares in Google, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, CNN, Pfizer, Moderna, like literally any sector. There's food sectors, like agriculture. Like you go look up every single sector of our economy and major corporations within it, and you'll see one of these three names in the top 5 of at least the top 10, but most times you'll see them within the top 3, 4, and 5. Like it's crazy. And if you're a shareholder, obviously you have some sort of sway in the company. And if you're one of the top shareholders of a lot of companies, you have a little bit more say than almost anyone else. So you can imagine now, if you look at the news networks and you see why these news networks are saying the same thing across multiple news networks, it starts to make a little more sense. But go look this up, do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Just some guy on the internet spewing stuff. So please go check it out for yourself. Now with Hex, though, your money is only handled digitally by you and the contract in Hex. No one else can touch it. You can send it to whoever you like, whenever you like, and cash out, not wash out, whenever you like. So it's all in your hands. A little bit more responsibility, but you're not funding, you're not empowering corporations or people that are potentially, I'll say, using an agenda to manipulate the way society is run for their own benefit. And now let's look at the 30-year ROI, because now we're gonna get some cool stuff. So 30-year ROI from RRSP or 401k versus 15-year ROI of Hex. Okay, so if you were to invest $27,000 today in your RRSP or 401k, if it's a 401k, it'd be $20,500 roughly, with no more contributions, you would get approximately $94,028.94 over a 35-year period. So if you're me, by the time I'm 64, well, let's say I did it next year, 30, over 35, by the time I'm 65, I'd have $94,000. Woo! But if you were to take, and that's no more contributions to, that's just like one time. So that's just let's really think about this for a second here. If you were to invest $27,000 today in Hex and stake it for 15 years alone, and if the price were to never go up again, so we're not even going to talk about the price going up or down or whatever. We're just, if the price stays flat, which if you were to say the probability of that based on past trends, that seems very low. Obviously it could happen, but up seems more likely, down seems less likely. Right now, we're going to say it's neutral. We'll just say in 15 years, it stays exactly the same because it's a mutable code. It's going to last 15 years. How much would you have? You'd have $187,000 and $187,000, $187,947. Wow. All prices aren't Canadian for reference, but yeah. So you basically like doubled what you were going to do, but in half the time. That's nuts. That's so cool. Now, if you stake that for another 15 years, you would now have 1.346979 million. Let that sink in. So for 30 years, you've now made $1.3 million on that $27,000 you invested in if you staked it for 30 years. And again, this is assuming everything stays the same now, no price increases, or the yield percentage doesn't go up or down. Now, let's talk about that for a second, because right now there's a fraction of the amount of people that are in some of the bigger coins. There's 280 something thousand as of the time of this video. And so we're such a minuscule, there are such a minuscule amount of people in comparison to the rest of crypto that are in Hex. So if the wallet number increases, the likelihood that price goes up is better, but that also means there's two ways. So if more people are staking, the yield percentage will go down, but that also means price is more likely to go up because people are holding and they're not selling. So while your ROI goes down, your price appreciation would go up to compensate for it. So realistically, it could be the same. It could be higher. It could possibly be lower, but it seems more likely that it'll be the same or higher. But now let's complete the 35-year cycle. So if you stake that for another 5 years to complete the full 35-year comparison, you'd have 2.8 million Canadian dollars. 2.8 million for your same $27,000 investment. So for 35 years in RRSP with $27,000, you got 94K. And 35 years in Hex, you got 2.8 million. And that's if the price stays exactly the same at 13 cents. 13 and a half. Just think about that. That's so crazy. And you're not supporting a bank. You're not putting your money in a bank. You're not dealing with these major corporations. You're not funding them. You're doing this for yourself. You're creating your own wealth. We're kind of stepping outside of the system. It seems so cool to me that I'm absolutely in love with it. So, like I said, how likely is this? Like, is it that this scenario happens? Well, it's not very likely. In fact, it's more likely that the payout of each of the 15-year stake decreases due to the way the system works. However, it's more likely that Hex's price will go up even a small amount over the long term. So I don't obviously have any way to measure that. It would be speculation. It'd be complete speculation regardless. So I'm just not going to go there. But if we say that Hex went up from 13.5 cents to 20 cents over that 35-year period, and we didn't get that adoption that I was speculating about, and the price just went up a tad, just a few more people came on, and the price went to 20 cents, you would now have 4.2 million Canadian dollars instead of 2.8 million. That's another 1.4 million for that 7-cent increase. Whew. So it's more likely to go up because so few people in crypto hold, like I said, 285,833 wallets currently as of 10/03/2022. And there's a legal battle going on in the background that could change the narrative on Hex completely, which I will link in this. It's a court case that is a a class action lawsuit, and it's between Binance, CoinMarketCap, and all affiliates, and it's not looking good for them. It looks like they've done a lot to suppress Hex. They have manipulated the price even in some ways due to the way that they've tarnished its reputation, and they have basically they've done some damage to Hex's price potential. And when this gets settled, and essentially they stop gatekeeping, because they've actually been holding Hex on page 3 at number 201 when for the entirety of its life after I think it was late 2020, it's been in the top 10-ish at least on CoinMarketCap. If you actually use market cap as an instrument of measurement for how a coin is ranked. So once that's settled, everything could change. If Hex goes back up on all these ranking sites to its top spot between number 2 and number 3, depending on how you measure the market cap, we could see some massive changes right in the next year or so. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's a massive thing that's about to happen. So a lot of what we're talking about as far as price appreciation, that could be very likely in the case that this case gets adjourned sooner than later. Like I said, I'll attach the link to the blog post that I've written about it on cryptographics.com below. So now let's talk about the pros and cons for an RRSP or a 401k savings plan. Pros: it's easy to set up. Employers can match contributions. There's stability for the most part, unless the banking system, economy, or dollar in value collapses. For the most part, it's a safe investment. I mean, it's locked in. They're trusted companies. You know that when like there's 90 something at least % chance that by the time you get to your retirement, your money's going to be there. The cons, though, the value of the dollar is constantly going down and recently well over the 5% per year due to inflation. So if you look at from 1981 to 2021, there is a chart that shows that the purchasing power of the US dollar was, I think it was it's 3 times stronger than what it is. We lost basically 3 times the purchasing power in 30 years. That's brutal. And so while you're getting a 5% compounding interest rate in your account, you're not really doing much overall. You're kind of just staying flat because interest is going this way and then you're being pulled back down this way and you're basically meeting right in the middle. And I mean, obviously these are going to fluctuate and you may net positive over the course of the life of the savings plan, but you're fighting a very, very steep uphill battle against your ability to, have a retirement plan at the end of this all, especially lately with all the stuff that's going on geopolitically in the world. So, and directly supporting companies, or so the cons of this as well is you're directly supporting companies that are controlled by BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Like I said, the 3 of the largest investment management funds who control most of the Western corporations, media, etc. It's actually really crazy. You guys should really look that up. Again, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Go to Yahoo Finance and just type in any major corporation, any of them, and you'll 99% of the time you will see BlackRock, State Street, or Vanguard as one of the top shareholders. It's mind-boggling when you get into this. Another con, you can only withdraw certain amounts of it if in the US and have to start draining the account by 71 years old. It's just so limited. Like being able to move money in and out as you please, to me at least anyways, is huge. I know, like, yes, sure, having money that you can't touch is the safest way. Having the delayed gratification where like you can't touch it is great because it's going to just keep growing and growing and growing over the course of the life of the fund or investment. And by the time it gets out, even whatever you went through in the meantime, it should be worth it by the end because you're going to have this big fat amount of money that you can either live on or reinvest or whatever you're going to do with it. But again, another con is you can only contribute a max amount per year with no exception. See, that's the thing that I don't like as well. Like if you're a younger person and you are sure you're making an amount per year that allows you to, well, it doesn't even matter. If you're making an amount per year that you could, $27,000 is like just over $2,000 a month essentially. So if you're able to invest over $2,000 a month, you can't in the retirement savings plan for the compounding. That's crazy to me. Like what happens when you make double what you're making because you work your ass off and you've earned, now you're making like even at let's say even at 150 grand, like let's say you're at that $150,000, you make $150,000 a year, but your bills are like $40,000. You got $110,000 to play with. And if you wanted to invest more than $27,000, then you literally couldn't. You can't. You just cut off. So I'm sure there's got to be a max amount that's possible to be earned over the life of an RRSP versus, and we didn't even do this calculation of like if you were to contribute for the life of your 35 years, what you would actually get. I wouldn't even want it to be unfathomable, honestly. Because think about, we just did one $25,000 or $27,000 contribution, and we got like or it was 2.8 million, which is roughly around $2 million, $2.1 million US, just from one contribution. So if you were doing that every year, I cannot even, because it compounds too, and that adds up. So just, we're not even going to go there because it's going to be so unrealistic sounding that it's just, you're not going to believe it. So now let's go to the Hex Pros and Cons because we covered the RRSP and the 401k. So the Hex Pros are, there's no middleman. There's no limits to how much you can take out or place in. Very high return on investment over the long term, even if the price doesn't move much. There's flexibility on long or short, or on how long or short you can stake. You can create yearly stakes or however you want to do it, monthly stakes, like whatever. You will get a copy of any Hex you own. And I'm going to talk about this. I'm just going to like kind of breeze over this a little bit here. Just going to leave this. You will get a copy of any Hex you own right now when the new blockchain, Pulse Chain, goes live. Because Pulse Chain is going to be a fork of Ethereum. So you're going to double your stack. So if you have a 15-year stake on Ethereum, you're going to have another 15-year stake that goes live for the same amount that gets copied to Pulse Chain. So you're basically doubling up your potential earnings. And Hex users have received free tokens, or AKA airdrops, in the past, sometimes actually with high dollar value. One of the most recent ones actually was Hedron, which I will talk about, I believe, after this slide. And it's pretty sweet. You get all sorts of, it's basically free money if you can think about it, like a protocol or like an exchange or a new token comes out that is built, and either Hex users were the ones to be the people to use it before there was a token released by it, or it's built on Hex or to utilize Hex. And so it's airdropped or able to be minted or claimed, if you want to think about it like that, for free. It's pretty damn cool. Perks to be a Hex user. That's just crypto in general, but lately we've seen a few Hex airdrops, and there's more coming for Hex as well. So really want to emphasize that. Another cool thing is you become your own bank and you create your own wealth that cannot be removed, frozen, or canceled. And Hex was the best performing asset in 2021. Hex is only 2.3-ish years old, I think, roughly, somewhere around there. So there's a lot of really good things for Hex. The cons: requires some knowledge about setting up a wallet, buying and selling crypto. Price is speculative, up or down, and it's very volatile. So, I mean, you could see the price go, like, especially if you bought in at the last all-time high and you thought we were going to the moon, and you're like, 50 cents, I'll throw 10 grand in. Well, you'd be down like a lot right now. You'd be down 80% or more. Yeah, around 80%. Which would suck. If you're staked, it doesn't matter, because like if you look at the long-term price of Hex over like year to year, it's almost always been up. And I don't have the exact number of times or X's it's been up or percentage, but more often than not, you just go look at the Hex chart on either TradingView or just go to TradingView, and you can see what the Hex chart looks like over the last or since its birth, and it's a good looking chart. So either a broker or a central exchange is required to sell money for USD or Canadian or whatever you have. So you can't just like, click some stuff and send it to your bank account. You kind of have to do a little bit of work, so it can be a little tricky. If you are not careful with where you click, or if you store your seed phrases, which are the phrases, the randomly generated phrases that you need to access either your wallets or your hardware wallet, someone could, like, you get hacked, which a hardware wallet does solve. But this is more for like the online wallets. If you're clicking around, you're downloading things and you're opening emails that you've never seen before, that kind of like suspicious. Someone could basically take over your computer. We've seen it a couple of times, and I don't know that it's a PC more than a Mac thing, but it seems to be more that I've seen it with PC than Mac. I'm not going to touch on that any further. It's just speculation from there. But the hardware wallet does solve this. Takes it offline, keeps it on your wallet, and makes it a little easier. But still, it's something to note. And another con is it's subject to government tax laws, which could change. I mean, like, we could see massive laws for taxes on crypto. We could see taxes on inflation or yield. We could see taxes on whatever. Like, I mean, the way they deem capital gains versus business income could be very different. You could have the moment you purchase, or basically, if you were to, let's say you buy Ethereum and then you were to trade it for Hex, which is basically you're just buying Hex, is the only way to do it. That could be deemed as trading. And then now your taxes go way through the roof, because now you might be qualified as business income. So you never know with that. Also, Hex can dip in value up to 90% over a period of months. And once you commit to a stake, you're locked in for at least half of it before your principal is not hurt. So as you can see, there are some things to think about. I mean, you're literally becoming your own bank. And if you think about the responsibility of a bank to the people that are placing their money in there, it's quite high. That responsibility now gets placed on you, but you now have full control, and your ability to create wealth goes from like a 0.1% or a 5% in a savings account, combating inflation, which is like not a lot. At the end, it might be net zero or net like 1%. Now it goes up a ton, as you can see by the calculations we were doing earlier. So, like I was mentioning too, with the airdrops, Hedron, I think it's called Hedron, is a protocol that just came out that is the first of its kind to basically use Hex as its base layer and build on top of it. It's really, really cool. And Hedron allows Hex stakers to sell their stakes in order to not have to incur penalties and hurt the price of Hex. So once you're staked through Hedron, you also can get free Hedron tokens for the life of the stake. Super cool. You get paid out per day. And if you if you have a stake right now in Hex, you can lock in a bonus that is, I think, 9 times whatever you would normally get daily, all the way to for the life of the stake. And it's a 100-day thing. So in, I think, 7 days, it's going to be 8x, and then 10 days, it'll be 7, and then another 10 days, it'll be 6, then 5, then 4, then 3, and 2, and then it's over. So definitely look into this. If you're already into Hex, please go check out Hedron. It's dope. Hedron's price also went up 10x in the last 11 days, which has been, well, I think actually 10x in like 6 or 7 days, which most Hex stakers got for free, which is mind-boggling. It's the first of its kind to be built on Hex, and a copy of anything you get in Hedron, of Hedron tokens from staking or purchasing, will be copied to the Pulse chain. So to go in a little bit more detail about what Hedron is, Hedron essentially is, because like we talked about, if you have a Hex stake and it's not through Hedron, normally what happens is you have to either end the stake and have penalties or serve the term. What Hedron allows you to do is essentially, when you stake through Hedron, it basically wraps it up and makes it a thing that we're going to call it an NFT, but it wraps it in a way that allows someone to sell it to someone else. So instead of just being stuck with that stake, now let's say I have a 15-year stake, I'm 5 years in, I'm like, holy crap, I need the money. I could go and I could sell that NFT for however much I think that it's worth to me, because obviously the projected value is a certain amount based on past price history and plus the rewards that you can basically calculate roughly. So you could sell it for what you think it's worth. Someone could buy it, they take it over, and you're free of the contract, or you're free of the stake, and you didn't get any penalties. You didn't hurt the Hex price. You got your money you wanted, and it's like a win-win for everyone. Also, like I was mentioning too, on the price of this. So if you ever have to get out, there's 2 ways that Hedron works. If you want to get out of your stake, but only because you need money, well, there's 2 things you can do. The first thing is you can actually, like I said, you can mint, or you can basically, because you have staked, you actually get to make, or you get Hedron daily. You can use that Hedron as financing for yourself in your life in the meantime. And if, let's say, because you're, I don't know, let's say you're 100 days into a 10-year stake, and you need, if you had the entire amount of your Hedron, you could easily live off that for quite a while and you'd be quite good. Well, you know what? You can actually borrow Hedron from the future amount that could be minted through your stake, and you can utilize that. Now you got to pay it back, but so you got to be careful, but you can still do that. So there's ways that Hedron is making Hex users not have to end their stakes and protect the system and the stakes without hurting price or wrecking people. So this is a huge win for Hex, in my opinion. Final thoughts. So with a new Pulse chain ecosystem right around the corner, Hedron released, and so much geopolitical chaos happening right now, Hex seems to me like it might just be the place to hold your money over the long term. Whether you're saving for retirement or to become your own bank, Hex gives the power to the people to create a better world with newfound wealth. I don't personally see the value in any retirement saving. I think I mentioned this, but I don't see any value in it just because of who I'm investing in within the plan, as well as the restrictions on deposit and withdrawal and the impact of inflation on the dollar versus the interest rate. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I think crypto is the way to go. Plus, I like having control. I don't like the way the system is set up. I want to get out of it. I want to be able to do my own thing. I don't want to be as limited. So I'm a big fan. And again, do your own research. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm some dude on the internet just telling you things about a cryptocurrency, which they're super volatile. You could lose money, and you shouldn't listen to me. Just consider it. Do your own research. Talk to a professional. This isn't financial advice. And I think that's a wrap, guys. So if you like the video, please give me a like, subscribe, check out cryptographics.com. Like I said, I have blogs. I'm going to put the sources for all this information that I got in the description. If you want to support the channel, you can buy a hoodie or a t-shirt. I got Hex and Pulse chain, as well as just cryptographics hoodies and t-shirts. They're super dope. You should check them out. I got some cool sportswear stuff coming. So please smash the like button, subscribe, check out cryptographics. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see